The marble floor of the Obsidian Hotel was so polished I could see my reflection in it, distorted and stretched thin like I felt inside. My hands trembled as I adjusted the portfolio case under my arm, the leather strap digging into my shoulder hard enough to hurt. I focused on that pain, anything to distract from the growing panic clawing at my chest. I'd been delivering architectural renderings to corporate clients in this building for 8 months now, always through the service entrance, always invisible. Today, the concierge had redirected me through the main lobby because of some security drill blocking the rear corridors. Of course, because my life wasn't complicated enough without walking through a space where Pierce might see me. The lobby stretched before me like a gauntlet, all soaring ceilings and abstract sculptures that probably cost more than I'd earn in a decade. The air smelled of expensive leather and fresh orchids from the massive arrangement on the reception desk. My worn messenger bag bumped against my hip as I walked, announcing my presence, marking me as someone who didn't belong here. I kept my head down, counting steps, 32 to the elevators. Then I could vanish up to the executive suites, deliver my firm's presentation boards, collect my delivery confirmation, and disappear back into my small, safe world. 32 steps. I could manage that. Devin. The voice froze me mid-step. My stomach dropped through the floor. That familiar baritone with its sharp edges that used to make me flinch, now turning my blood to ice water. I didn't turn around. Maybe if I kept walking, he'd think he was mistaken. Maybe reality would bend just this once in my favor. Devin, wait. I know that's you. Footsteps behind me, quick and determined. My pulse hammered in my throat as I clutched the portfolio case tighter and walked faster. 20 steps to the elevators. Just 20 more steps. Don't you dare ignore me. His hand clamped on my shoulder, spinning me around with enough force that I nearly dropped the case. Pierce looked exactly as he had 9 months ago, when I'd finally escaped sandy blonde hair styled with too much gel, sharp green eyes that had once seemed protective but now just looked predatory. He wore an expensive suit, probably bought with his trust fund since he'd never held a job longer than 6 months. The familiar scent of his cologne made my stomach turn. I need to make my delivery, I said, proud that my voice only shook slightly. Please let me go. Let you go? His laugh was sharp, bitter. Like you let me go? Just vanished one day, blocked my number, refused to answer the door. We were together for 3 years, Devin. 3 years. I gave you back your key. I explained everything in my letter. Your letter. He spat the words like they tasted foul. 3 years together and you end it with a letter. Do you have any idea how that made me look? How my family reacted? How everyone at the club laughed behind my back? The thing about Pierce was that everything always circled back to him, to his image, to how things affected his standing with people whose opinions shouldn't matter. I'd spent 3 years trying to shrink myself small enough to fit into his vision of the perfect boyfriend, attending his networking events, smiling through his subtle criticisms about my career, my friends, my appearance. The day I'd moved into my own studio apartment, taking only what I'd brought into the relationship, had been the first time I'd breathed freely in years. I'm sorry you were hurt, I said, aiming for calm despite my racing heart. But we weren't right for each other. You know that. What I know is that you owe me an explanation, a real one, face to face. His hand shot out, gripping my wrist. Not hard enough to bruise. Never hard enough to leave marks. Pierce was too smart for that. But firm enough to communicate that I wasn't leaving until he allowed it. The portfolio case wobbled dangerously. You're going to make me drop this, and it's worth 6 weeks of work that I can't afford to replace. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you humiliated me. My vision narrowed, the lobby around us fading as my focus tunneled to his hand on my wrist, to the familiar sensation of being trapped. This was how it had always been. His needs, his feelings, his control disguised as care. I'd promised myself, never again. Never again would I let someone make me feel this small. Let go of me. The words came out stronger than I expected, sharp enough that a passing couple glanced our way with concern. Pierce's expression shifted, his grip loosening slightly, but not releasing. We're making a scene, Devin. You hate scenes. Just come to the bar with me. We'll have a civilized conversation like adults, and then you can make your delivery. I don't want to have a conversation. Too bad. His fingers tightened again. You don't get to just walk away from 3 years without giving me closure. The elevator bank was only 15 feet away. If I could just break free, If I could reach those doors before he caught up, I could escape this nightmare. The lobby suddenly felt too warm, too close, the beautiful space transforming into a trap. Pierce, please. I hated the pleading note in my voice, hated that he'd reduced me to this again. I'm working. I'll lose this contract if I'm late. 1 drink, 30 minutes, then I'll let you go. We both knew that was a lie. 30 minutes would turn into an hour, then 2, then he'd want to get dinner, want to remind me of old times, want to wear down my resistance until I agreed to give him another chance. I'd seen this pattern before, lived through it too many times. My eyes darted past him, searching for help, for security, for anyone who might intervene. The hotel staff carefully looked away, trained to ignore minor disputes among guests and visitors. The well-dressed people in the lobby kept their distance, unwilling to involve themselves in someone else's drama. I was alone again. The realization galvanized me. I twisted sharply, breaking his grip with a move my friend had taught me in the self-defense class I'd taken after leaving him. The portfolio case listed dangerously, but I managed to steady it as I spun away and lunged toward the elevators. "Devin!" Pierce's shout echoed through the lobby. "You can't just—" I slammed my hand against the call button. Once, twice, 3 times, as if that would make the elevator arrive faster. Behind me, I could hear his footsteps gaining ground. My reflection in the polished elevator doors showed a young man with panic in his eyes and dark hair still mussed from this morning's rushed commute, clutching a portfolio case like it was a shield. The doors slid open with a soft chime that sounded like salvation. I threw myself forward without looking, desperate only to be anywhere he wasn't, to have metal doors between us, to have a moment to breathe and think and plan my next escape. My shoulder collided with something solid, warm, unmovable. Strong hands caught the portfolio case before it could hit the floor, steadying it with startling speed. I stumbled backward, looking up at the man I'd just crashed into. He was tall, easily 6'3", with shoulders that suggested real strength rather than gym vanity. His black suit was impeccably tailored, the kind of craftsmanship that whispered old money and power. Dark hair, sharp cheekbones, and eyes so pale blue they were almost silver, studying me with an intensity that made my breath catch. But it wasn't just him. There were 2 others. Identical. Triplets. 3 men who looked carved from the same stone, each wearing the same expensive suits, each radiating the same controlled danger. The only differences were subtle. One had a scar along his jawline, another wore his hair slightly longer, the third had a barely perceptible softness around his mouth that suggested he smiled more than his brothers. "I'm sorry," I gasped, reaching for my case. "I didn't see, I wasn't looking, Devin, get back here." Pierce's voice shattered the moment. Without thinking, I lunged fully into the elevator, my body moving on pure instinct. The 3 men shifted, making room, their movements coordinated like they'd spent a lifetime in each other's space. "Please," I whispered, my eyes darting to where Pierce was now only feet away, his face flushed with anger. "Please, I need." The man with the scar, the one who'd caught my portfolio, moved with liquid precision. His hand shot out, pressing the button for the doors to close. "Wait." Pierce shoved his hand forward, trying to catch the closing doors. But the scarred man shifted, his body blocking the entrance, imposing and immovable as a wall. Behind him, I felt the other 2 close ranks, creating a wall of muscle and expensive fabric between me and my ex. The doors slid shut, with a soft thunk that felt like the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. Through the narrowing gap, I caught a final glimpse of Pierce's furious face, his mouth moving in words I couldn't hear and didn't want to. The elevator lurched into motion, carrying us upward, and I sagged against the back wall, my legs suddenly too weak to support me. My heart hammered against my ribs hard enough to hurt. I'd done it. I'd actually escaped. For the moment, anyway. "Thank you," I managed, looking at the 3 men who'd saved me. "I'm sorry for crashing into you, and for dragging you into my mess. He wouldn't let me leave, and I panicked." The scarred one studied me with those unsettling pale eyes. Up close, I could see more details. The scar ran from his temple to his jaw, a thin white line that spoke of violence survived. His brothers flanked him, 1 on each side, and I realized they'd positioned themselves protectively, not protecting themselves from me. Protecting me from the threat beyond the doors. "Your ex?" the one on the left asked. His voice was deeper than expected, rough like whiskey over gravel. He was the one with longer hair, just brushing his collar. I nodded. 9 months ago, I thought I'd never see him again. He hurt you. It wasn't a question. The one on the right, the one with the softer mouth, said it with complete certainty. Not physically, I clarified quickly, but yes, he controlled everything. Made me small. I couldn't breathe. And now he's trying to make you smaller again, the scarred one said. His accent was faint but present Russian, maybe Eastern European. By forcing conversation, by touching you without permission, by making you afraid. The accuracy of his assessment made my chest tight. You saw all that in 30 seconds? We see a lot in 30 seconds. The longer-haired one tilted his head, studying me. What floor? Executive suites. I have a delivery for... I stopped, realizing I didn't even know which company. I'd been so focused on escaping Pierce I hadn't checked my assignment sheet. For Volkov Industries, the scarred one finished. His lips curved in something that might have been amusement. We know. We were expecting your firm's presentation. My brain stuttered to a stop. Your Volkov Industries? We are Volkov Industries. The one with the softer mouth corrected. Nikolai, Damien, Gabriel. In that order. He gestured to the scarred one first, then the longer-haired one, then himself. Volko. The name triggered something in my memory. Real estate empire built in less than a decade. Brothers who'd come from Russia and systematically acquired half the luxury properties in Manhattan. Rumored connections to organized crime, though nothing ever stuck. I'd just crashed into 3 of the most dangerous men in New York. I should. I tried to hand Nikolai my portfolio case, but he didn't take it. I'm Devin Carter, from Apex Design. We prepared the presentation boards for your waterfront development proposal. We know who you are, Damien said. The one with the longer hair, the rough voice. Your firm has excellent credentials. Your work specifically caught our attention the Brooklyn Heights project last year. I blinked. You reviewed my portfolio? We review everything that enters our building, Nikolai replied, including the people who deliver it. The elevator climbed smoothly past floor 20, then 30. The digital display kept ticking upward. Where are we going? I asked, suddenly aware that we'd passed the executive suites. Penthouse, Gabriel said. The softer one, though soft was relative. He still looked like he could break me in half without trying. More private. More comfortable for you to recover from your encounter. I don't need to recover. I need to make my delivery and get back to work. Your ex-boyfriend is waiting in the lobby. Nikolai interrupted. Hotel security informed us when he began making inquiries about which floor you'd be delivered to. You're not going back down until we're certain he's gone. The casual way he said it made something in my chest tighten. They'd been monitoring Pierce, protecting me without me even knowing. Why would you do that? I whispered. The 3 of them exchanged glances, some silent communication passing between them. Because, Gabriel said finally, his voice gentle in a way that made me want to cry. No one should have to run from the person they used to trust. The elevator doors opened to a space that stole my breath. The penthouse wasn't an office, it was a home. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Manhattan, the city spreading out like a glittering carpet. The furnishings were sleek and modern, all dark wood and leather, but there was warmth here. Books on shelves, art that looked personal rather than decorative, comfortable spaces designed for living. Come, Nikolai said. Not a command, but an invitation. Sit. We'll review your presentation, and then we'll ensure you get home safely. I can take the subway. No. All 3 of them said it at once, their voices overlapping in a way that would have been funny if it weren't so absolute. Your ex knows your routines, Damien explained, moving toward what looked like a bar area. If he's determined, he'll wait at your subway stop, at your apartment building. He'll make himself a problem until you agree to talk to him, or until someone makes him understand that's not an option, Gabriel added, his soft voice carrying an edge that made me shiver. I should have been terrified, should have been running for the door, but standing in this beautiful space with 3 dangerous men who'd appointed themselves my protectors, I felt safer than I had in months. I don't understand, I said quietly. You don't know me. Why do you care about my problems with Pierce? Nikolai moved closer, and I realized he was the tallest of the 3, maybe 6 to 4 to my 5 to 9. The height difference should have been intimidating. Instead, it felt almost protective. "We know more than you realize," he said. "Your personnel file from Apex Design, your background check for building access, the recommendation letters from your professors." My cheeks flushed. "That's an invasion of privacy." "It's due diligence," Nikolai corrected. "But beyond the facts on paper, we know something more important." "What?" "Your scent." Damien's voice was rough, almost pained. "The moment you stepped into this elevator, all three of us felt it. My breath caught. In Omegaverse biology, scent was everything. Alphas and Omegas could sense compatibility through pheromones, through the subtle chemical signals that indicated genetic matches, fated mates. "That's not possible," I whispered. "I'm on suppressants, high-grade blockers. You shouldn't be able to scent anything." "We shouldn't," Gabriel agreed. "But we do, which means you're not just compatible with one of us. You're compatible with all three." The world tilted. Fated mates were rare enough. Fated mates who matched with triplets? I'd never even heard of such a thing. "This is insane," I managed. "We just met. You can't just—" "We don't. We know." Nikolai's voice was surprisingly gentle. "This is overwhelming. Unexpected. But it doesn't change what our instincts are telling us." "Which is?" All three of them looked at me with identical expressions. "Hunger, yes. Want, definitely. But underneath that, something more fundamental. That you're ours," Damien said simply. "And we protect what's ours." I should have argued. Should have explained that people weren't property, that I'd just escaped one controlling relationship and wasn't about to enter another. But the way they looked at me like I was precious, like I was worth defending, like I mattered beyond what I could give them, cracked something in my chest. "I need to think," I said instead. "This is too much. The elevator, Pierce, now this. I can't process all of it." "Of course." Gabriel gestured to a leather couch. "Sit. We'll get you water. You can take all the time you need." I sank onto the couch, the portfolio case still clutched against my chest like a shield. Damien disappeared and returned with water in a crystal glass that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Your ex," Nikolai said, settling into a chair across from me. "How long since you left him?" 9 months. "And in those 9 months, has he attempted contact?" "Texts, at first. Voicemails. Then he seemed to give up." I took a sip of water, my hands still shaking. "Until today. He saw an opportunity," Nikolai said. "You in his territory. Vulnerable. Alone. He thought he could intimidate you into compliance. He almost did," I admitted quietly. "If those elevator doors hadn't opened when they did. But they did." Gabriel's voice was firm. "And now you have options you didn't have before." "Options like what?" "Like accepting our protection," Damien said. "We can make sure he never bothers you again." "How? Are you going to threaten him? That's illegal." "No threats necessary," Nikolai said. "Just information. Pierce comes from money, yes? Family connections, social standing. Men like him care about reputation above all else." I nodded slowly. "Then he'll care when he learns that pursuing you carries social consequences," Nikolai continued. "That the Volkov brothers have taken a personal interest in your well-being, that we've made it known to certain influential people that anyone who causes you distress will find themselves uninvited from the circles they value." "You do that?" I asked. "For someone you just met?" "You're not just someone," Gabriel said softly. "You're our fated mate. That changes everything." The certainty in his voice made my heart race. "I don't want to be owned again," I said, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. "I can't go from Pierce controlling my life to you three controlling it instead. I can't." "We don't want to own you," Damien interrupted, his rough voice surprisingly gentle. "We want to partner with you. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes." Nikolai leaned forward, his pale eyes intense. "Ownership is about taking. Partnership is about giving. We're offering you protection, resources, safety. In return, we ask only that you allow us the chance to prove we're worthy of you." "That's not how fated mates work," I said. "The bond isn't about proving anything. It's biological. Biology got us in the same elevator," Gabriel said. But choice is what happens next. We're not going to force you into anything, Devin. We're offering you options. I studied the three of them, trying to find the trap, the angle, the hidden cost. But all I saw was sincerity. Three dangerous men offering to fight my battles without demanding anything I wasn't ready to give. What exactly are you proposing? I asked carefully. A contract, Nikolai said. 6 months. You accept our protection and present yourself publicly as our partner when necessary. Business events, social functions, anywhere our presence is expected. All three of you? I asked, head spinning. The Volkov brothers come as a package, Damien said with a slight smile. We've shared everything since birth. This wouldn't be different. In exchange, Gabriel continued, we ensure Pierce never bothers you again. We provide security, resources, and complete autonomy in every other aspect of your life. You continue your work, pursue your goals, maintain your independence. And after 6 months? I asked. After 6 months, you decide, Nikolai said simply. Stay with us permanently and accept the mate bond. Or walk away with enough savings and connections to build whatever life you want. No obligations, no strings. It was too generous, too perfect. Life didn't hand out solutions wrapped in attractive packages. Why 6 months? I asked. Because fated mate bonds take time to fully develop, Gabriel explained. 6 months gives us time to prove ourselves and gives you time to heal from your ex and decide what you truly want. What if I decide I don't want the bond? Then we'll be devastated, Damien said honestly. But we'll respect your choice. The elevator doors chimed, startling me. A man in a dark suit stepped out, moving with the controlled precision of security. Mikhail, Nikolai said. Status on our visitor? Pierce Ashford departed 15 minutes ago. Mikhail reported in a thick accent. Made inquiries about Mr. Carter's employer and schedule. We flagged him in our system. He won't be allowed back in the building. Relief flooded through me so intensely I felt dizzy. Thank you, Mikhail. Nikolai dismissed him with a nod. The man disappeared back into the elevator. Your delivery? I remembered suddenly, gesturing to the portfolio case. I still need to... Later, Gabriel said. First, let us take you home. Make sure you're settled and safe. I live in a 4th-floor walk-up in Queens, I said. I don't think you understand what you're offering to protect. We don't care where you live, Damien replied. We care that you're protected. Something in my chest cracked open then. These 3 dangerous, powerful men who could have anyone, who commanded respect with a look they were offering me everything I'd needed for the past 9 months. And all they wanted in return was a chance. Okay, I heard myself say. Okay, 6 months. But I have conditions. Name them, Nikolai said immediately. I keep my job, I keep my apartment, and we take this slowly. I'm not ready for anything physical beyond what's required for public appearances. Agreed, all 3 said in unison. And if I decide after 6 months that this isn't right, you let me go. No guilt, no pressure, no making me feel like I owe you anything. Agreed, Nikolai repeated. Though we'll do everything in our power to make sure you never want to leave. Gabriel stood, offering me his hand. Come, let's get you home. You've had an eventful morning. I took his hand, letting him pull me to my feet. His palm was warm, calloused, and the touch sent awareness cascading through me despite everything. Maybe this was insane, maybe I was making a terrible mistake, but standing in that penthouse with 3 alphas who'd already proven they'd protect me without asking for anything in return, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. The ride to my apartment was quiet. They'd insisted on taking me in their car, a sleek black SUV with tinted windows, and a driver who moved with Mikhail's same controlled efficiency. I sat in the back between Damien and Gabriel, hyper-aware of their presence on either side. Nikolai sat in front, occasionally glancing back to check on me. This is me, I said when we pulled up to my building. The contrast between their vehicle and my neighborhood was stark chain-link fences, graffiti, buildings that had seen better decades. We'll have security sweep the building, Nikolai said, already pulling out his phone. That's not necessary. It is. His tone brooked no argument. If Pierce has your address, he might be waiting. We check first. 10 minutes later, Mikhail emerged from my building and nodded. Clear. No signs of surveillance or visitors. They escorted me up the 4 flights, Damien carrying my portfolio case despite my protests. At my door, I fumbled with my keys, suddenly aware of how small my space would look to them. "Thank you for today," I said. "For the elevator, for the ride, for everything. We'll be in touch tomorrow," Nikolai said, "to discuss the details of our arrangement. And to make sure you're safe," Gabriel added. Damien handed me my portfolio, his fingers brushing mine. "Lock your door, keep your phone charged. If you need anything, call this number." He pressed a card into my palm. After they left, I entered my studio and locked the door, leaning against it as reality crashed down. I just agreed to become the public partner of 3 Russian mafia alphas who thought I was their fated mate. And the terrifying part? I was starting to think they might be right. The next morning, I woke to a text from an unknown number. "Good morning, Devin. This is Gabriel. We're sending a car to collect you at 10 a.m. We need to discuss logistics and introduce you to our security team. No pressure you can refuse. But we'd prefer to start protecting you immediately." I stared at the message, thumb hovering over the reply box. This was real. They were really doing this. "Okay," I typed back. 10 a.m. The response was immediate. "Thank you for trusting us. We won't let you down." By 9:55, I was dressed in my nicest jeans and a button-down, pacing my small apartment nervously. When the knock came, I jumped. But it was just Mikhail, professional and polite. "Good morning, Mr. Carter. The car is waiting." The drive took us back to the Obsidian Hotel, but instead of the penthouse, we went to a different floor, a sprawling office suite that screamed corporate headquarters. All 3 brothers were there, dressed in business casual that still managed to look expensive. They were in the middle of what looked like a tense discussion, but stopped when I entered. "Devin," Nikolai's face softened fractionally. "Thank you for coming. You made it sound urgent," I said. "It is." He gestured to a conference table where a thick folder sat. "We've drafted a contract. Our attorneys reviewed it last night. Please, read through it. Ask any questions." I sat and opened the folder. The contract was surprisingly straightforward. 6 months, public appearances as needed, full security detail, monthly stipend, and a clause that made my stomach flip. "Housing clause," I read aloud. "Partner will relocate to secure residence provided by the Volkov brothers?" "Not the penthouse," Gabriel clarified quickly. "We have a townhouse in the West Village, fully staffed, completely private. You'd have your own floor, your own space. I have an apartment." "That Pierce knows about," Damien interrupted. "He's been there. He knows your building, your neighbors, your routines. Moving makes you safer. And less independent," I countered. "More independent," Nikolai corrected. "Because you won't be looking over your shoulder every time you come home. Because you won't be choosing between pride and safety." The argument made frustrating sense. "I'd need time to think about it," I said. "Moving is a big step." "Of course." Gabriel's voice was patient. "Take all the time you need. But while you're thinking, consider this: the townhouse has a full design studio on the 3rd floor. Natural light, professional equipment, space to work on your portfolio. Everything you don't have in your current apartment." He'd hit my weak spot. My apartment was too small for proper design work. I used the firm's office after hours, always feeling like I was borrowing space. "You researched what I needed," I said quietly. "We researched everything about you," Nikolai admitted. "Not to invade your privacy, but to understand how to support your dreams. You want to open your own firm eventually. The townhouse gives you space to start building that future." I read through the rest of the contract. The terms were generous, more than generous. The monthly stipend alone was triple my current salary. "This is too much," I said. "You're paying me to be protected. That doesn't make sense." "We're not paying you to be protected," Damien said. "We're compensating you for the disruption to your life, for agreeing to public appearances, for moving if you choose to, for giving us a chance to prove ourselves. And if, after 6 months, I walk away? Then you walk away with savings, connections, and a fully equipped design studio's worth of equipment we'll send to wherever you land," Nikolai said. "We're investing in you, Devin, whether you stay with us or not." I stared at the contract, my mind spinning. "Can I have a lawyer review this?" I asked. "We'd insist on it," Nikolai replied immediately. "We've already contacted 3 firms that specialize in contract law. Your choice which one you use." We'll cover all legal fees. They'd thought of everything, anticipated every objection, every concern. Why are you doing all this? I whispered. The mate bond doesn't require this much effort. No, Gabriel agreed. But earning your trust does, and we'd rather have your trust than rely on biology to keep you here. The sincerity in his voice cracked something inside me. Okay, I said. I'll have a lawyer review it. If they say it's fair, I'll sign. The three of them visibly relaxed. There's one more thing, Nikolai said. We need to discuss the immediate threat. Pierce? He's been making inquiries. Damien explained. Called your firm this morning, claimed to be a client wanting to request you specifically for a project. Your boss, thankfully, refused to confirm you work there. My stomach dropped. He's not going to stop. No, Nikolai agreed. Which is why we're handling it today. With your permission. Handling it how? We're visiting him, Gabriel said simply. At his office. Very public, very professional. We'll explain that you're under Volkov protection now. That pursuing you carries social and professional consequences he won't enjoy. You're going to threaten him. We're going to educate him, Nikolai corrected. About the reality of his situation. No threats, just facts. I should have said no. Should have insisted on handling Pierce myself. But I was so tired of being afraid. So tired of running. Okay, I said. Do it. But I want to know what you say to him. We'll record the entire conversation, Nikolai promised. Complete transparency. They kept their word. That afternoon, I received a video file, audio only, but I could hear everything. Nikolai's voice, cool and professional. Mr. Ashford, we're here regarding Devin Carter. Pierce, confused. Who are you? How did you get into my office? Damien, rough and controlled. Devin is under Volkov protection now. You're going to stop contacting him, stop asking about him, stop thinking about him. Pierce, trying to sound tough. You can't tell me what to do. Devin and I have history. Gabriel, softly menacing. Had history. Past tense. Now you have a choice. Walk away clean, or we make it known to every social club, every business network, every family connection you have that the Volkov brothers find your behavior toward our Omega problematic. Pierce, realizing he was outmatched. Your Omega? He didn't say anything about being with anyone. Nikolai. He shouldn't have to. But since you need it spelled out, Devin is ours. We protect what's ours. And we're very creative about removing obstacles. Long silence. Pierce, finally. I don't want any trouble with you people. I'll stay away. Damien. Wise choice. And Mr. Ashford? If we hear you've caused him even a moment of distress, you'll discover that social consequences are the least of your worries. The recording ended. I sat in my apartment, phone in hand, processing what I'd just heard. They'd done it. Without violence, without actual threats, they'd made Pierce back off permanently. My phone buzzed. Gabriel, did you listen? Yes. And? Thank you. I don't know how else to say it, just thank you. You don't need to thank us, Devin. Taking care of you isn't a favor. It's our privilege. That night, I signed the contract after having a lawyer review it. She'd been shocked at how favorable the terms were, how many protections were built in for me, how little was demanded in return. If you're sure about this, she said, it's the fairest contract I've ever seen. They're either genuinely invested in your well-being or playing a very long game. I thought about the way they'd protected me without asking for anything, the way they'd given me choice at every turn, the way they looked at me like I mattered. I'm sure, I said. The next day, I moved into the townhouse, and my new life began. The townhouse was beautiful in a way that made my chest ache. Not cold and ostentatious like I'd feared, but warm lived in, comfortable, designed for actual people rather than magazine spreads. My floor was the third, sandwiched between the second-floor staff quarters and the brothers' shared fourth-floor master suite. Privacy, like they'd promised. But the design studio Gabriel had mentioned took my breath away. North-facing windows, professional drafting tables, a high-end computer setup, shelves for supplies, everything I dreamed of having. We can adjust anything, Gabriel said, watching me explore. If you need different equipment, different layout, just tell us. I ran my fingers over the drafting table, smooth and perfect. This is exactly right. Good. He smiled, and I realized it was the first time I'd seen him fully smile. It transformed his face, made him look younger, less dangerous. "We want you to be happy here." The first week was an adjustment. The brothers worked during the day, managing their empire from the townhouse's second-floor offices. I'd see them at breakfast sometimes, at dinner most nights. They were respectful of my space, never entering my floor without invitation. But I could feel them. Through walls and floors, I could sense their presence like a low hum in my blood. The mate bond, developing whether I was ready or not. My first morning, I woke disoriented, in a bed far too comfortable and a room far too large. For a moment, I forgot where I was, panicked that I'd somehow ended up back with Pierce. Then memory returned. The Volkovs, the contract, the choice I'd made. I found my way downstairs following the scent of coffee and found Gabriel in the kitchen, barefoot in sweatpants and a t-shirt, looking more human than I'd seen him. "Morning," he said, glancing up from his newspaper. "Coffee? Please." He poured me a cup, added cream without asking how I took it. Somehow, he already knew. "The others are in a meeting," he explained. "Business never stops. But I thought you might appreciate a familiar face on your first morning." The thoughtfulness of it made my chest ache. "Thank you." We sat in comfortable silence, him reading, me processing the surreal reality of living with 3 alpha triplets who thought I was their fated mate. "You're wondering if you made a mistake," Gabriel said, without looking up. "I'm wondering if this is real," I corrected. "If you're really as good as you seem, or if I'm missing something." "We're not perfect," Gabriel said, finally meeting my eyes. "Nikolai can be cold, calculating to the point of ruthlessness. Damien has a temper he keeps tightly leashed, but that occasionally breaks free. I read people too well, manipulate without meaning to. That's not exactly a great sales pitch." "It's honesty," Gabriel replied. "You should know who we are, what we're capable of. The world we operate in isn't kind or forgiving. We've done things that would horrify you if you knew details." "Then why tell me?" "Because you deserve to make informed choices," he said simply. "And because I'd rather you know the truth and decide you want us anyway than build a relationship on comfortable lies." I studied his face, seeing the vulnerability beneath the charm. "I appreciate that. The honesty. Good." He smiled slightly. "Because Nikolai will be even more brutally honest, and Damien sometimes forgets to use words at all when he's trying to communicate. We're a lot, Devin. All 3 of us." "If that's too much?" "It's not," I interrupted. "It's actually refreshing. Pierce used to hide things, manipulate situations so I'd never know what was really happening. You're doing the opposite. Pierce was a coward who controlled through deception," Gabriel said, something dark flashing in his eyes. "We control through honesty and choice. There's a difference." Over the next few days, I settled into a rhythm. Mornings in my studio, working on freelance projects. Afternoons either working out with Damien, who discovered I needed physical outlet, or discussing business strategy with Nikolai, or simply existing in the same space as Gabriel while we both worked. They gave me space, but made their presence known. Small gestures that added up to something bigger. Nikolai left books on architecture and design theory outside my door, always with a note explaining why he thought I'd find them interesting. Damien started teaching me self-defense, saying if I was going to be in their world, I needed to be able to protect myself. The lessons were surprisingly gentle, his rough exterior hiding a patient teacher. Gabriel cooked. Elaborate meals that appeared in my studio when I forgot to eat. Always my favorite foods, even though I'd never told him what they were. "How did you know I love Thai food?" I asked one evening when he brought Pad See to my studio. "Researched your favorite restaurants from your credit card history," he said without shame. "Also, you light up when you smell lemongrass. That's either creepy or thoughtful. I can't decide which. Can't it be both?" He settled onto my couch, uninvited, watching me work. "Tell me about this project. What are you designing?" I found myself explaining my vision for a community center renovation, how I wanted to preserve the historical elements while modernizing the functionality. Gabriel listened with genuine interest, asking questions that showed he was actually paying attention. "You care about impact," he observed. "Not just aesthetics. You want your buildings to matter to the people who use them. Is that naive?" "No," Gabriel said firmly. "It's exactly right. Buildings shape how people live, how communities function. Your grandmother would be proud." I blinked. "You know about my grandmother?" Background check included family history. She raised you after your parents died, taught you to see beauty in structure, possibility in space. His voice was gentle. I'm sorry you lost her. It was 5 years ago. I should be over it by now. Grief doesn't have a timeline, Gabriel said. You lost the person who taught you to dream. That doesn't stop hurting just because time passes. The understanding in his voice cracked something inside me. Pierce had always dismissed my grief, said I needed to move on, focus on the future. Gabriel was giving me permission to still hurt. Thank you, I whispered. He just nodded and stayed, quiet company while I worked, until I realized his presence had become comforting rather than intrusive. That night at dinner, a formal affair with all 3 brothers and me around a table designed for 12. Nikolai studied me with those pale, calculating eyes. You're adjusting well, he observed. I'm trying. But you're still waiting for the other shoe to drop, he continued. Waiting for us to reveal our true intentions, to show you this protection comes with strings attached. Can you blame me? I asked. This all seems too good to be true. No, Nikolai said. I can't blame you. Pierce taught you to expect betrayal, expect that kindness always has a cost. But consider this, we could have forced the bond. We're alphas. You're our fated omega. Biology gives us significant advantages, but we didn't. We offered you a contract, a choice, a way out. Why? I asked. Why not just claim me immediately? Because consent matters, Damien said, his rough voice firm. Because we want you to choose us, not be trapped by us. A mate bond forced is a prison. A mate bond chosen is freedom. The certainty in his voice made my pulse quicken. We're not afraid of you walking away at 6 months, Gabriel added. We're confident that if we show you who we really are, you'll decide to stay. That's worth the risk. That night, lying in my comfortable bed in my beautiful room, I thought about their words. They were dangerous. Probably criminals. Definitely people who'd done things I shouldn't condone. But they were also honest, respectful, giving me more choice than I'd had in years. Maybe I was being naive. Maybe this would all fall apart spectacularly. But for the first time in a long time, I wanted to believe in something good. On day 8, Nikolai knocked on my studio door. We have an event tomorrow night, charity gala, very public. Are you ready? My stomach clenched. This was it, the first test of our arrangement. What do I need to do? Be yourself, he said simply. We'll handle everything else. The stylist arrived the next morning, a sharp-eyed woman named Tatiana, who took one look at me and started making calls. You have good bones, she said in a thick Russian accent. We enhance, not change. Mr. Volkov was very clear. The suit she selected was midnight blue, perfectly tailored, expensive but not flashy. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. I looked confident, sophisticated, like someone who belonged on the arm of powerful men. Perfect, Tatiana declared. You'll be beautiful. That evening, all 3 brothers came to collect me. They were devastating in their formal wear, moving with synchronized grace that spoke of years together. You look incredible, Damien said, his rough voice gone soft. Gabriel offered his arm. Ready? The gala was at a museum, all marble and classical art. The moment we entered, I felt the attention shift, heads turning, conversations pausing. The Volkov brothers had arrived, and they'd brought someone new. Stay close, Nikolai murmured in my ear. Let us handle introductions. Just smile and be yourself. It was easier than I'd expected. They moved through the crowd like sharks through water, confident, dangerous, but somehow making space for me between them. Nikolai introduced me as their partner. No elaboration needed. Damien's hand stayed at my back, warm and grounding. Gabriel made quiet jokes that made me laugh despite my nerves. We looked like a unit, a pack, and people noticed. The Volkov brothers have chosen an omega, I heard someone whisper. All 3 of them. Is that even possible? Apparently. By the end of the night, I was exhausted but exhilarated. We'd done it, sold the illusion or maybe the reality that we belonged together. In the car ride home, I found myself leaning against Damien's shoulder without thinking. He stiffened for a moment, then relaxed, his arm coming around me carefully. You were perfect tonight, he said quietly. We all were, I murmured. too tired to maintain walls. Back at the townhouse, Gabriel walked me to my floor. At my door, he hesitated. "Devin, I know this is just an arrangement, but I want you to know you're not just playing a role to us. You're becoming real." Before I could respond, he was gone. I entered my studio and collapsed on the couch, my mind spinning. They were becoming real to me too. And that terrified me more than anything. 2 months in, I'd found my rhythm. Work during the day, I'd started taking on freelance projects using the townhouse studio. My portfolio was growing, my reputation building. Clients who'd never have looked at me twice were now requesting my services, drawn by the Volkov Association, but staying because of my work. Dinners with the brothers when schedules aligned became the highlight of my day. We'd sit around that oversized table, and they'd ask about my projects with genuine interest. Nikolai would analyze the structural challenges, Damien would worry about safety and accessibility, Gabriel would understand the human impact. They made me feel like my work mattered, like I mattered. But it was the quiet moments that were changing me. Morning coffee with Nikolai became routine. He'd find me in my studio before his first meeting, 2 cups in hand, and we'd sit in comfortable silence while the city woke up below us. Sometimes we'd talk about architecture, about his business, about nothing and everything. Sometimes we'd just exist together, and that was enough. "You're good at this," he'd said one morning, studying the rendering spread across my drafting table. "Good at what?" "Seeing potential where others see problems. This project," he gestured to a low-income housing proposal I was developing. "Most architects would make it functional, but soulless. You're making it beautiful, giving these residents dignity through design. Everyone deserves beauty," I said. "Not just people who can afford it. That's why you're special," Nikolai replied. "You haven't let the world make you cynical." Afternoon runs with Damien had become essential. He'd noticed I was getting restless, pacing my studio, unable to settle. So he'd started showing up at 3 p.m., workout clothes in hand, refusing to take no for an answer. We'd run through Central Park, Damien's security team following at a discreet distance. He never talked during the actual running, just matched my pace, pushed me when I flagged, celebrated when I hit new distances. Afterward, catching our breath on a bench, he'd finally speak. "You're stronger than you think," he'd said after I'd completed my first 10K without stopping. "I feel like I'm dying." "But you didn't quit." He'd bumped my shoulder gently. "That's strength. Not giving up even when it hurts. Is that how you live? Just pushing through the pain?" "Sometimes," Damien admitted. "But lately, I'm learning there's strength in letting people help you too. In trusting someone else to catch you if you fall." The vulnerability in his voice made my chest ache. Evening movies with Gabriel became my favorite part of the day. He'd appear at my studio around 7, claiming he needed a break from work, and somehow, we'd end up on the 4th floor media room couch with takeout and whatever film he'd selected. His taste was eclectic noir classics, foreign films, animated movies, everything. But he always chose movies with depth, stories about connection and choice and what it means to be human. "Why do you like sad movies?" I asked one night after we'd watched something devastatingly beautiful about loss and love. "Because they're honest," Gabriel said. "Happy endings are fine, but the movies that stay with you are the ones that show how we survive heartbreak, how we find meaning in suffering, how we choose love even knowing it can hurt us. That's dark. That's life." He looked at me then, his expression unguarded. "We can't control what happens to us. We can only control how we respond. The movies that show that truth, those are the ones worth watching." I realized then that he was teaching me, showing me through stories that vulnerability wasn't weakness, that choosing to trust after being hurt was the bravest thing a person could do. They were patient, respectful, never pushing for more than I was ready to give. Physical touch was minimal, hands at my back during public events, shoulders brushing while we worked, the occasional hug when I was stressed. But the bond was growing whether I wanted it to or not. I could feel them now. Really feel them. Nikolai's calculating mind, always 3 steps ahead, planning and analyzing and protecting in ways I didn't even see. When I'd wake at night anxious about a project deadline, I'd feel him through the bond, steady and certain, and somehow I'd calm. Damien's protective instincts, coiled and ready, watching for threats I didn't know existed. When I'd leave the townhouse, I'd feel his awareness tracking me through the bond, ready to intervene if needed. It should have felt invasive, Instead, it felt safe. Gabriel's emotional awareness, constantly reading everyone in the room, understanding what people needed before they asked. When I was sad, he'd appear with my favorite food. When I was stressed, he'd suggest a movie. He knew me through the bond in ways I barely knew myself. They could feel me, too. I knew because they'd start appearing when I needed them. The day I got a rejection from a client I'd really wanted, all three of them showed up at my studio within minutes of each other. They didn't ask what was wrong, they already knew through the bond. They just came, surrounded me with silent support, until the disappointment faded to determination. "You'll get the next one," Nikolai had said with absolute certainty. "And if you don't, you'll get the one after that," Damien added. "Because you're brilliant, and eventually everyone will see it," Gabriel finished. The three of them, speaking in turns, completing each other's thoughts, like they were one person in three bodies. And I was becoming part of that synchronization. It terrified me, because this wasn't pretend anymore. This wasn't an arrangement or a contract or a business transaction. This was real. I was falling for them. All three of them. And I didn't know how to stop. On day 70, Gabriel found me in my studio at 2 a.m., staring at a blank computer screen. "Can't sleep?" he asked softly. "Can't think," I corrected. "This project, I can't figure out the entrance design. It needs to be welcoming but secure, open but protected. I can't find the balance." He moved behind me, looking at my sketches. "Show me what you've tried." I walked him through my attempts, each one failing in different ways. Too fortress-like, too exposed, too ordinary. "What if you're thinking about it wrong?" Gabriel suggested. "What if it's not about balancing welcome and security, but about making security feel welcoming?" The shift in perspective clicked something in my brain. I grabbed my stylus, started sketching. Gabriel stayed, quiet presence behind me, until dawn broke and I had a design that finally worked. "Thank you," I said, turning to find him watching me with such fondness it made my breath catch. "You would have figured it out eventually," he said. "I just gave you a different angle. That's what you do, isn't it? Give people different angles, help them see possibilities they missed." "I try," Gabriel admitted. "With business, with problems, with people. But with you, it's different." "How?" "With everyone else, it's a skill, a tool I use. With you, it's instinct. I can't help but want to make things easier for you, to solve problems before they become problems, to clear obstacles from your path." "That's the bond," I said. "Maybe," Gabriel agreed. "Or maybe it's just you. Maybe you're the first person I've met who I want to help not because it serves me, but because seeing you happy makes me happy." The confession hung between us. "Gabriel, you don't have to say anything," he interrupted gently. "I just wanted you to know. Whatever you decide at 6 months, however this ends, these 2 months with you have been the best of my life." He left before I could respond. I sat in my studio, watching sunrise paint the city gold, and realized something crucial. I didn't want this to end at 6 months. I wanted this to be forever. On day 73, everything changed. I was in my studio when Mikhail appeared, his face grim. "Mr. Carter, we have a situation. Please come to the operations room immediately." The operations room was on the 2nd floor, a space I'd never entered. It was full of monitors, security feeds, and 24 people working with quiet efficiency. All 3 brothers stood around a central table, their expressions dark. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Viktor Kozlov," Nikolai said without preamble. "Russian competitor with territories that conflict with ours. He's made a move." My stomach dropped. "What kind of move?" "He's taken one of our business partner's daughters," Damien said, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. 16 years old, holding her as leverage. Horror crashed through me. "A child?" "He's done this before," Gabriel explained. "Uses innocent people as pawns. It's his signature play." "Can you get her back?" "We will," Nikolai said. "But there's a complication." "What complication?" The 3 of them exchanged glances. "Viktor knows about you," Damien said finally. "Knows you matter to us. He suggested that if we don't cooperate, you might be next." The room tilted. Everything I'd built, everything I'd started to believe in it was all crashing down. "This is because of me," I whispered. "Because I'm here." This is because Victor is a monster who uses fear as a weapon, Nikolai said sharply. This is not your fault, but I'm the vulnerability now. The thing he can use against you. No. All three of them said it in unison. Gabriel moved closer, his hands framing my face. You're not a vulnerability. You're our strength. But we need you somewhere safe while we handle this. Where? We have a compound upstate, Nikolai explained. Isolated, heavily guarded. Mikhail will take you tonight. For how long? However long it takes to resolve this, Damien said. Days, maybe weeks. I should have been angry, should have argued that I could take care of myself. But looking at their faces, seeing the real fear there, the genuine terror at the thought of losing me, I realized something crucial. This wasn't about control. This was about love. Okay, I said. I'll go, but you have to promise me something. Anything? Gabriel said. Get that girl back safely. Whatever it takes. We will, Nikolai promised. We swear it. 2 hours later, I was in an SUV driving north through darkness. Mikhail and 3 other security personnel surrounded me, but I felt empty inside. I'd gotten comfortable, started believing in the fairy tale. Now, reality was crashing back in, reminding me that the Volkov brothers' world was dangerous, that being with them meant being a target. The compound was in the Adirondacks, a sprawling estate that looked like a fortress disguised as a luxury resort. They set me up in a guest house with guards posted outside. For the next week, I paced and worried and checked my phone obsessively. Updates came in frustratingly vague texts from the brothers. Making progress. Stay safe. Negotiations ongoing. Don't worry. Almost resolved. Miss you. That last one was from Gabriel. It made my chest ache. On day 8, Mikhail received a call. His expression transformed from tense to relieved. The girl is safe, he said. Mr. Volkov is handling final details with Victor. We can return to the city tomorrow. That night, I barely slept. Relief warred with anticipation. I needed to see them, to confirm they were safe, to stop pretending this was just an arrangement. Because somewhere in the past 2 months, I'd stopped pretending. I'd fallen for them. All 3 of them. We returned to the townhouse the next afternoon. The place was quiet staff given time off, just the brothers waiting. I found them in the 4th floor living room, looking exhausted and battered but whole. The moment they saw me, something shifted in their expressions, relief and hunger and need so visceral I felt it across the room. I didn't think. Just moved. I crashed into Nikolai first, and he caught me, his arms wrapping around me tight enough to hurt. Then Damien was there, then Gabriel, until I was surrounded by them, held and protected and cherished. I thought I'd lose you, I whispered against Nikolai's chest. I thought Victor would. Never, Damien said fiercely. We'd burn the world down before we let anyone take you. Victor won't threaten anyone we care about again, Gabriel added softly. It's handled. I pulled back enough to see their faces. What did you do? What was necessary? Nikolai said, but I saw the cost in his eyes. I should have been afraid of them then. Should have seen the danger they represented. Instead, I saw 3 men who'd protected an innocent girl at great personal cost, who'd risked everything to keep me safe. The arrangement? I said, my voice shaking. The 6-month contract? You have 4 months left, Gabriel said carefully. We'll honor whatever you decide. I'm deciding now, I interrupted. I don't need 4 more months. All 3 of them went still, waiting. I choose you, I said simply. All of you. Not because of the bond, not because of the protection, because you're you and I'm me, and somehow we fit. The relief on their faces was so profound it made my eyes burn. Are you sure? Nikolai asked, his voice rough. Once we claim you, once we complete the bond, there's no going back. I'm sure, I said. I've never been more sure of anything. Damien's hand cupped my face. You understand what that means? Being ours completely? I understand it means being partners. Being equals. Being loved. Yes, Gabriel breathed. Exactly that. Then claim me, I said. Make it permanent. They did. 3 claiming bites, 3 bonds snapping into place, 3 threads connecting me to them and them to me in ways that transcended words. And when it was done, when I could feel all 3 of them in my mind and heart and soul, I finally understood. This was what it meant to be home. 5 years later, I stood in my studio, surveying the completed designs for what would be the Volkov brothers' latest development, a mixed-use complex that prioritized affordable housing alongside luxury units. My firm had grown. I employed 12 people now, took on projects that mattered, and built a reputation as an architect who cared about community impact as much as aesthetics. The triplets had supported every step, provided capital and connections, but never once tried to control my vision. Still working? Damien's voice came from the doorway. I turned to find all three of them watching me with identical expressions of love and pride. Just finished, I said, gesturing to the renderings. What do you think? They moved closer, studying my work. Nikolai's analytical eye caught details. Damien's protective instincts worried about structural integrity. Gabriel's emotional intelligence saw the human impact. It's perfect, Gabriel said finally. You're perfect. We're proud of you, Nikolai added, pulling me close. Every day you make us prouder, Damien agreed, his arm coming around both of us. Through the bond, I felt their emotions, love and pride and contentment and joy. They felt mine too, happiness and gratitude and the deep satisfaction of building something that mattered. Thank you, I said quietly. For that day in the elevator, for not letting me run, for choosing me back. We'll choose you every day for the rest of our lives, Nikolai promised. And they did. The end. Thank you for being part of Devon's journey from running to finding home. If this story of three alphas and their fated Omega touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more BL Omegaverse stories. Drop a comment and tell me which brother was your favorite, Nikolai's strategic mind, Damien's protective strength, or Gabriel's emotional wisdom. Until next time, remember, sometimes the person you're running from leads you straight to the people you're meant to find.